And so it's interesting to pause now and talk about the future a little bit. I'm going to turn back to books. I still collect all these books. I have, on the left there is a Sid Mead book. He came and spoke to us at Pratt. On the right, a book of the art from behind Star Wars. That's not photographs, that's the sketches that define that world. I always found it fascinating how those worlds could be created from scratch. Find the Naked Lady. This is Sid Mead. This is a scene from Blade Runner. There's the Blade Runner car. I mean, if you look at his sketches and you look at the film, it's almost identical. This is from Alien, of course. This is a concept sketch by H.R. Giger, who loved to have aliens penetrating women all over the place. It's really not Jimmyjane's aesthetic per se, but amazing, amazing nonetheless. And again, taken directly into the heart of that film. But then, you know, defining all the equipment and everything that everybody uses in that entire world, everything needs to be defined from scratch. Of course, that crosses over into sex sometimes. This is Jane Fonda as Barbarella in The Excessive Machine, which is supposed to kill her with excess pleasure. She blew up the machine because she could just, anyway. It's Jane Fonda. She was aerobicizing in there or something. And then, of course, we have Sleeper and the Orgasmatron. I do think that we're going to have all of these things and more. And it's not really a question of whether, it's really a question of when. But I'll return to that. On the biology front, in the future, one of the resources, again, a book, I'm going to talk about the future and showing you books, is this Bible of ergonomics from Henry Dreyfuss, 1959. You open this book and you see exciting things like this. This is just a diagram of exactly how far it is from the tip of somebody's nose to their big toe when they're seated in this position, which is useful for somebody somewhere. But actually, this is good for designing, for instance, a chair. Here's a chair, the Tonette chair, which you've seen, whether you know or not, and you've sat in, whether you know or not. It's a classic. It's sturdy, it's effective. The ergonomics are impeccable. It packs flat, which is what you see on the left there. Extremely simple to make. New manufacturing method, bent wood, steamed. This was made first in 1859, the bent wood chair number 14. By, I think it was 1930, they had sold 50 million of them. Here's a classic, sturdy, effective, with time-tested ergonomics. This is a product that has been a bestseller for 27, 8, I don't know, years. Here's a prediction. The biology we're dealing with isn't changing that much. A lot of the other circumstances around that biology is changing, but the reason that this is still a bestseller is because it's still doing a great job at what it was meant, well, actually, not what it was meant to do, I don't think, but what people adapted it for. That gives us some great opportunities. Here's a car, designed first in 1963, and still redesigned and redesigned and redesigned. It also is a classic. The aspirations that it was targeting and the road feel and the handling, the geometries, a lot of that remained identical to the original spirit. The spirit was right. The car can remain the same. We have an opportunity in our category as well, and we're seeing more of this now, and I think the future will bring even more, of taking those products, really investing deeply, getting them right, and then maintaining them. This sounds more foreign here than it does to any other category. Form 6 was first designed in 2006, and I just heard from our teammate, Molly, who's in the audience, that it was just voted #1 by Cosmo and #1 by Fleshbot for new products in 2012. So this sort of goes against this idea that we need to be cycling and cycling and cycling through product and pushing and pushing and pushing new stuff out. I would posit that, in fact, we're better served by doing a good job and then perfecting and perfecting and perfecting. You do occasionally need to abandon. We've abandoned products. But if it was an amazing product yesterday, make it an even better product tomorrow. The technology around us is changing so quickly, and you're probably familiar with Moore's Law. It basically suggests, and it plays out, that every 2 years the amount of transistors we can fit into a certain area doubles. The computing power doubles every 18 months or so, even faster. what that means is that we'll be, this is an old graph, but now we're able to emulate a mouse. But in a couple of years, the computer will be as smart as a human brain. And after that, all human brains combined. And when you look at supercomputers, you start seeing things like this. And I don't know how much you guys have read about the singularity, but here it says, required for human brain neural stimulation for uploading. There's a moment in time that theorists are hypothesizing, Ray Kurzweil, the more recent, but he's just riffing on an older sort of theory from the 1950s, where when we reach the point in time where computers are smarter than we are, the computers won't need us to design themselves. They'll iterate on themselves. Those iterations, because every iteration will be a better computer, will go faster and faster, and then Skynet will become aware. That's a reference to Terminator. So basically, they're positing this idea, this singularity, which is that moment where this gross acceleration in the intelligence of the technology occurs. Again, the point being, all these things will come to pass, the biosensing, the direct neural stimulation where you've got an implant in your spine, or even electrodes on the outside, and so on. And I do think that sex after singularity will blow your mind, because anything will be possible. However, that's not where we are today. And here's where we are today. There are problems we can solve, there are problems we are solving, and there are problems we should solve. And I always ask myself, although maybe not quite frequently enough, where am I falling on this graph? This is somatica. Somatica was a problem I could solve, and it was a problem I was solving. It was not a problem that I should have been solving. And so I think this is always a relevant question, and this is something that I saw, it didn't say somatica, that I saw online that really resonated with me a couple months ago. So I'm recreating it for you here. Attribution is important. Don't steal people's ideas. So here's something that probably doesn't need to exist. It's not a question of whether or not we can. It's a question of whether or not the product and the proposition is actually relevant to the real world that we're living in, the people that we're trying to serve. When you look at technology adoption cycles, you're probably familiar with this curve, this idea that you have the early adopters who really carry the product over to the majority. Those early adopters sometimes will drop your product in that chasm and never pick it up again. You need to cross the chasm, and there's a book that you can read called Crossing the Chasm or something like that. Here's another one. This is called the Gartner Hype Cycle. This is a little bit different. This is actually talking about what people are talking about, the hype. So you have the trigger in technology that sets off a new innovation. You have people thinking it's going to save the world. It's going to change everything. The peak of inflated expectation. Then you have the trough of disillusionment. There's a little bit too much poetry in this for me, but this is where the product isn't, and the technology isn't living up to expectation, and then gradually it does actually make it into the mainstream. So when you look at these two together, this is sort of a peak that comes even before this peak here. The idea, I think, that's important to gain from this is to be able to differentiate between things that are really up there in the hype, but not actually going to be reaching the majority, and things that are actually really already on this slope of enlightenment. So this is maybe way too much detail anybody wants to look at right now, but this is a map for a set of technologies. I don't even know what technologies this is. It's a huge variety. 3D printing is way up here on top of the hype cycle, which I think is correct. But what was interesting here when I was looking at this is that somatica is here. It's sort of part of the Internet of Things, where every object is connected and intelligent, or not intelligent but connected. Human augmentation, kinda, and mesh networks, kinda. All of those have a yellow triangle still. This is as of July 2012. And that's basically saying the plateau over here is going to be reached in more than 10 years. So somatica is still ahead of its time. And I think you see that playing out. There are a lot of companies trying this internet-connected whatnot. It's going to be a little while before there are enough fax machines that people start faxing each other. Right? If that makes sense. The value of one fax machine, 0, right? Value of 2 fax machines, a lot more than 1 fax machine. The value of thousands and thousands of fax machines is very high. Right now we don't have any more fax machines, so it's kind of irrelevant. But there's nobody to receive your email, you're not going to send a whole lot of email. Anyway, the idea here, it's all in the timing. And so it's really about focusing on design for the real world. And in fact, there is a book also for this, Victor Papanek. And some of these I actually really recommend you pick up. This is an old book. This is actually more about what people really need and responsible design. But it says here, why the things you buy are expensive, badly designed, unsafe, and usually don't work. That took me right back to my first incursion into the industry. Again, no offense intended. Not everything was like that, but a lot of things were like that. They were expensive, badly designed, unsafe, and didn't do what they said they were going to do. So, today, we're seeing an increasing number of intellectual property conflicts. Increasing, there aren't that many yet, but I have a hypothesis here. We've got Fleshlight and Tango, we've got Lilo and WeVibe, and if you ask me, I think the Rock Chick was sort of there and was both of those a long time before that. What we're moving toward is, I think, a series of deeper investments in product development by the firms that are involved, and that will yield more of these collisions. So deeper investments in product development will yield a deeper attachment to the intellectual property and fisticuffs. Nothing really to say about what to do about that other than to say, I think it is coming. And a lot of the patents that were filed, and I'm really looking from my telescope, in the era when Jimmyjane was first getting going, for instance, a lot of the patents that we filed, are all being issued right now. And I think that that's true for a lot of the other old new companies. I still think of myself as a total newcomer to this industry, but it's now been almost 10 years. A lot of the people that were starting work then, Lilo and so on, if they were filing patents when they got going, before they revealed anything to the public, those are all going to be issued right now.